now to Iran and the aftermath of that bloody crackdown on protesters there earlier this month, as well as the issue of a nuclear deal. President Trump has said time is running out for the Iranian regime to negotiate a deal. If it fails to do so, he's warned his next attack on the regime will be far worse than the strikes on nuclear facilities in June last year. Mr. Trump said that a massive armada of U.S. forces was heading towards Iran, adding it was ready, willing, and able to fulfill its mission. The Iranian foreign minister has said he's not been in contact with the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in recent days, nor has he requested negotiations. But Abbas Araghchi added that various intermediaries were holding consultations and were in touch. Meanwhile, with the Iranian authorities now in firm control, they've acknowledged that more than 3,000 people were killed during the protests over worsening economic conditions. However, the respected US-based human rights news agency, which has been investigating the numbers, says so far it's confirmed more than 6,000 people were killed, but that the death toll may reach up to 17,000, while other groups go much higher, placing the number as high as 30,000 killed in the uprising.
A U.S. aircraft carrier has arrived in the Middle East as tensions remain high between the United States and Iran over its bloody crackdown on protesters in the country. The USS Abraham Lincoln and associated guided missile destroyers are now operating in the region. That's according to the U.S. Military Central Command. The Lincoln's presence is viewed as crucial if U.S. President Donald Trump decides to carry out his threat to potentially militarily attack Iran over its killing of peaceful demonstrators, as well as the threat of mass executions against those it now holds. Iran, for its part, has been just gripped by tension over those nationwide protests and the bloody crackdown launched afterwards. Activists now say over 6,100 people were killed and 40,000 others detained in those demonstrations. Iran is insisting that it's willing to potentially strike at will against the United States even before any American attack. And meanwhile, the Iranian rial currency is continuing just to crater against the US dollar. It's hit a new record low of 1.5 million rials to $1, and that's likely going to exacerbate those economic tensions that led to those demonstrations.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by the Iranian artist, rapper, and human rights activist Mohammed Soleimani. Mr. Soleimani, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We appreciate your taking the time to talk to us. So the regime in Iran now apparently once again in firm control, acknowledging that more than 3,000 people were killed during the protest, but other figures suggesting that up to 17,000 died, still others going much higher, placing the number as at more than 30,000. From your experience, is it likely that we're ever going to know the exact number of casualties?
Well, to be honest with you, what we know so far, I mean, I'm just looking at Mrs. Maryam Rajavi's post on X. So far, they announced more than 1,005 martyrs' names. And as we know, so far, 3,000 people have been, at least, as you mentioned, there are different figures, been killed, shot directly by this regime. The reality is, of course, because of the internet blackout, it is very difficult for us to get the exact information. And the regime, obviously, every time these protests happen all over the Iran, they shut down the internet, and that's the main reason, so they can kill as many they want, and so the world wouldn't know how many exactly that number is. So for us over here, of course, as I mentioned, NCRI, National Council of Resistance of Iran, they have their network inside Iran. They do inform. They are in touch, but because of the blackout, internet blackout is very, very difficult today.
Indeed, but at least you've managed to confirm quite a significant number. And whether it's 3,000 or 30,000, I mean, that's an astronomical number, isn't it? And a terrible price to pay simply for going out to protest against worsening economic conditions.
Exactly, but this is not, and so far during the 47 reign of this regime, more than 120,000 people have been executed. In 1988, just in less than 8 weeks, 30,000 people, and at that time, unfortunately, we didn't have no social media. There was no, the system that we have, the technology we have to create awareness and to let the world know. But today, the regime knows they're doing this, repeating the same thing. They're shutting down the internet. But the reality is, as you mentioned, Iranian people are fighting for more than 4 decades. And so this is an ongoing crime by this regime. And it's not their first time, and it's not going to be their last time. So that's why we need to think as the international community, specifically our own government in the UK. They need to take firm action. It's literally now, even it's too late. And when are they going to listen to people in Iran and blacklist IRGC? The first thing they can do, close down Iranian regime's embassies, send their back to Iran. So, I mean, these are the minimum they can do at this time in order to support and be the voice of people inside Iran.
Well, I think the key question here is whether there will ever be justice for those people that you mentioned who've been killed, because, I mean, the International Criminal Court, for example, beyond what you were talking about, what the UK could do, the ICC does not have jurisdiction because Iran is not a party to its statute, and even the prospect of a Security Council referral is not possible because of the Chinese and Russian veto.
Well, I think we should concentrate on other ways, and there are plenty other ways. For example, the principle of universal jurisdiction. This same thing happened when as I mentioned in 1988, 30,000 people have been executed, and one of the members of the death committee, he was prosecuted in Sweden. They gave him 20 years, but unfortunately, the appeasement policy, they made some deals. The Swedish government with Iran, and they sent this guy back to Iran. Same thing happened to another so-called diplomat, Asadullah Asadi, in 2018 when MEK, the People Mujahideen of Iran, had a mass gathering with thousands of dignitaries, MPs from UK, from all over the world, members of the parliament. So he plotted a terrorist attack, and they found out. He was arrested, and in Belgium they gave him 20 years imprisonment. But what happened later? They made deals, an appeasement policy again, and sent this terrorist back to Iran, and now he's freely going around to the luxury restaurant and having fun. So what we are trying to say now to the international community, there are plenty other ways to stop this regime, to prosecute this regime. We never asked for a foreign war because we know how to deal with this regime. We have enough people inside Iran willing to sacrifice, because as you know, freedom is never going to be free. What did Nelson Mandela do? What do people, the freedom fighters in history do? They all paid the price for freedom. So now Iranian people are willing to do so, but all they need is recognition. We need British government, the American government, President Trump, to recognize the fight of the Iranian people. We have the rebellious youth inside Iran. They're willing to defend themselves under the preamble of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So there are other options. As I mentioned, blacklisting IRGC. It's too late now. They can do it today. They can do it now. This will inject hope to Iranian people. They can shut down Iranian's embassy and put it on the news instead of promoting the disposed Shah's son, which he is literally a puppet. He is he has no power, no one inside Iran, and no literally support anywhere. It's only media trying to what they did to Ayatollah Khomeini. I'm sure everyone aware, 1979, they exaggerated Ayatollah Khomeini's influence. They made him big and popular and printing his pictures all over the country. Nobody knew who this guy is. He never had a plan. Same thing happened with these post shells, and some, obviously, I know the international community now are understanding because of the pressure that we Iranian are putting on them, saying this time we don't want a puppet. We have a alternative. We have the opposition. We have the Iranian people inside Iran. They can finish it. We have Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. She's got a 10-point plan. She's got 4,000 parliamentarian, and 105 Nobel. So we do have enough support right now. There are other ways. If I'm sure if they listen to Mr. Maryam Rajavi's plan
Right.
and what the future, what her platform roadmap, I guarantee you we will get rid of this regime as soon as possible. And it's not just going to benefit us; it's going to benefit Middle Eastern,
Right. Okay.
South Africa. They're supporting Houthis, they're supporting Hezbollah, all the radical groups in the region in the Middle East is supported by the regime. Obviously now they're weaker and they're losing all this, it's fading that power
Right.
they have.
Well,
But
let me just
more,
let me just come in there for a minute, because I mean, whilst you're talking about all these avenues that are available for justice, etc., I imagine that you're also focusing at the moment on gathering and preserving the evidence. The arrest and prosecution of the perpetrators might have to wait till when the circumstances change, keeping in mind, as you said, that achieving justice can often be a historical struggle.
of course, I mean, right now, the UN fact-finding missions, the special rapporteurs and independent investigations can build and can help. And as we managed to literally recently finally push United Nations to recognize that what happened in 1988, 30,000 people being executed in less than 8 weeks, in fact, is a genocide, crime against humanity, but it took us 37 years when this happened from 1988. But today, as you mentioned, yes, there are other ways. They need to find out more research and send the fact-finding missions to Iran. Ask the Iranian regime, open the doors. We need to know what you're doing. They need to, hold them accountable. I think what we are doing, what the government's doing outside Iran, it's not enough. It's talking about war.
Right. Well, you're
This is
talking
not, as I
about
mentioned, is not the solution.
Right.
Because the Iranian people inside, and we had the experiences anyway in Afghanistan. What happened? War never brought freedom for any country. What happened in Iraq? So right now, the solution, as I mentioned, we know the pain. We know.
Right. I think you've made that point. We're running out of time, so I apologize for interrupting you. But let me ask you this, because you're talking about sending fact-finding missions inside Iran and so on. What is life like now inside Iran?
Well, right now, obviously, they applied martial law. So people, it's very difficult for them even to go out, to communicate with their families. Internet is shut down. So life is literally like a hell. Something probably they're trying to make it like North Korea. So no connection with the outside world. So of course, people in Iran right now in a horrible situation, because as you saw in the other, it was on social media, the regime, they killed mass people, and also amongst those dead bodies, there were people still alive. And they were not doing anything about it, not taking them to hospital. There were actually people going to find their own children, their bodies. And one of them, it was on social media that he saw a body is moving. So he actually lied to the guard and he said, "This is my son." And he managed to rescue this person. So what I'm trying to say, of course, Iran right now is like a hell for people. And what we need is, as I mentioned, the solution is there. Please support the Iranian people by blacklisting IRGC, shut down the terrorist centers, their embassies, expel their agents wherever they are, and I'm talking about all countries, not the UK, and also listen to the NCRI the resistance movement, which for 47 years, non-stop fighting, dedicated 120,000 people been executed from this organization, and stop making fake opposition for us. Let us finish it. We know how to do it. Thank you so much.
Right. And just before we let you go, a personal note about yourself, Mr. Soleimani. You are, of course, an artist, a rapper, and a human rights advocate. I mean, how do you use that to bring attention to the issue of freedom and justice in Iran?
Well, since we have been, this is what I became a rapper. Music I love, but I decided to sing for the Iranian opposition group because for 47 years they tried to censor them. In Iran, obviously the media is controlled by the regime. Outside, we all know some medias, of course, we have good people, I'm sure, like your TV, your channel, but there is always agenda behind many TV stations and media. So that's why I decided to be the voice, the true voice of Iranian people, and shout their cry, be there and show the world what is exactly needed in order to free the country, in order to save them, in order to let the rebellious youth inside Iran to go fight, to defend themselves, challenge the IRGC, and free the country. And this is my job today, to be echoing the voice of millions of people inside Iran, and I hope I can, I can do it in a right manner, because it's very difficult. A lot of pressure on us daily. We have to do. I'm also active on social media, but compared to my own network, which was always censored, and the Iranian regime tried to put us and the opposition group in the corner because they have oil, money, media outside Iran. The appeasement policy always, were against us. So, but today we are still alive. Thank God, and we're moving forward, and the future, in my eyes, is very bright. And for the first time, we are going to experience a democratic Iran by this very important slogan: "No to the Shah, the previous dictator, and no to the sheikhs, the current dictator." And the future should be democratic, so everyone, every opinion can, for the first time in a country that human rights came from. 2,500 years ago, we had the Cyrus the Great. So human rights came from Iran, but today we see only violation of human rights in that region.
Okay.
So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And I have to say, Mr. Soleimani, your courage is inspiring, and thank you very much indeed, and all the very best. Mohammed Soleimani is an Iranian artist, rapper, and human rights advocate, and he was talking to me on the line there from London.